This video is going to be about effort and hard work, and also the element of perseverance, which are all very strong drivers of the growth mindset. In growth mindset, effort is seen as a positive thing because effort is what is going to see results, and it's going to be the thing that drives you to getting to success. And effort is kind of something that you would see as a positive thing. So if you saw other people putting in a lot of hard work and effort, it's seen as a good thing. In the fixed mindset, effort can be seen as being pointless and not a good thing, because if you are trying to protect the amount of intelligence that you've got because you think your brain is static and things aren't going to change, if you are in that mode of protecting and wanting to appear very clever, you are going to think that if you are seen to put in a lot of effort, then you're obviously not naturally clever. So obviously in the COVID-19 pandemic, there are huge amounts of effort in all sorts of different ways that are coming to the fore. There was a really nice little story that I saw on the news the other day, our local news, about a head teacher who was going out with this big rucksack on, big sort of travel rucksack backpack, and he was walking 5 miles a day every day since this pandemic started and we've been locked at home, to deliver 80 packed lunches to children within his school that needed those lunches. And when he was interviewed, they were talking about the fact that he was being seen as a bit of a hero for doing this, and his response was, "I'm not a hero, this is part of my job. This is just not something that I would have expected that I would be doing, but it's just what needs to be done." So, you know, it's quite a kind of very sort of genuine, heartfelt way that he was viewing it, and not seeing himself as a hero at all. He was just doing his job. So there are people who are just doing their jobs, but I think there are a lot of people, particularly in our NHS at the moment, that we are seeing as heroes. Dominic Raab I saw talking at the Downing Street roundup of the day the other day, and he said he was asked the question by one of the journalists whether the NHS staff would see any recognition for the hard work that they're doing at the moment. And obviously, as politicians, they don't really want to answer straight out questions. They don't want to answer them like, you know, they probably hadn't had a chance to talk about a lot of those kinds of things, especially as Boris Johnson's been in intensive care. But he didn't give specifics, but he certainly gave the impression that these people wouldn't be forgotten, and we do recognise the hard work that is going on in the NHS at the moment. That's not to say that it's not usually, and whilst in the mindset theory, Dweck does talk about the giving of rewards and the idea that extrinsic rewards are not really what we should be giving, and she's talking about children in particular, that it's been shown countless times in psychological research that the giving of extrinsic rewards actually does the reverse of what we hope it's going to do. It actually diminishes the behaviour that we are trying to get children exhibiting by rewarding them with extrinsic things. So things like stickers or, you know, sweets or whatever, that once you take that extrinsic reward away, the behaviour that they are actually after is not going to be perpetuated. They're not interested. Anyway, going back to the NHS, I don't think you can really see their situation in quite that way, because they are innately driven to help people and to care, and they're not in it for the money. I think if you asked a nurse if they were in it for the money, they'd probably laugh in your face. So they're not doing it for massive reward, and that's the job and the profession that they've chosen to enter into. So I think we are in extraordinary circumstances, that kind of thing is not something that we should be thinking about, really. So the NHS, I've been completely astounded by the NHS, because we've been hearing for years now how the NHS is on its knees. And it's remarkable that they're not just coping, but they're actually really rising to the challenge from what I can see. And it is a massive, massive challenge. So who else in this journey then can we talk about as being people that are putting in loads of effort? Well, I've made a bit of a list, and again, this is by no means going to be a complete list. There's so many people. So all key workers, allowing our country to function and not completely stagnate, to allow us to live, well, as normally as we can. Those keeping the nation at home entertained online with their offerings. Some of those people are everyday people. Some of those people are celebrities that are using this time to help entertain people at home. Joe Wicks for keeping the nation's health going. So the nation's children particularly are exercising, but he's also probably hitting other people in the family as well. All the workers working from home with often a backdrop of family to contend with, which isn't easy. The children that are homeschooling and finding other ways to keep themselves entertained, like the children at the school where I work. I've seen some evidence online about children raising money for the NHS by running a mile. A little girl that's been going around the houses in her village dropping rainbows that she's drawn into people's letterboxes. I know there's been people that have been camping outside at their homes, in their gardens, in camper vans, to raise money for the NHS. The programmes and courses and session leaders that have mastered running those courses and classes online to keep those communities going. The government for taking big decisions and leading us through this crisis, whatever political standpoint you are, and however well you think they've done and continue to do, they are leading us through this and putting in big efforts to do so. So the big efforts now and for the future are going to be about finding a vaccine to be able to help us get back to some sort of normality. And I think the biggest effort and the biggest challenge with that is that we're having to do this in a very short amount of time in terms of the drug landscape, if you like. I know from having worked quite a few years ago now within the pharmaceutical industry for a short time, that it takes years to do these studies and check that these vaccines and drugs are safe for human consumption. And what is being asked of scientists and pharmaceutical companies at the moment is that we are reducing that time down from not 5 or 6 years, but 18 months possibly, if that may be the quickest amount of time we could do this in. I don't know. But yeah, we need all efforts across the world to help us in that search for a vaccine. So those efforts will hopefully put us in a bit better place for returning to a future normality. And it'd be interesting to know what that normality is going to look like after all of this. But hopefully it will be improved for a lot of reasons, because those efforts, hopefully, that we put in are going to help us to progress. And after all, that is what growth mindset is all about.